about time we got another wacky weapon in Ninjala. Fellow Gunlance players, rejoice! This weapon is for you. The devs literally decided to give us a boomstick. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and all the core gamers out there. CAJ Man 777 here today to bring you yet another Ninjala weapon guide. It's been a long while since we've done one of these, as it's been 5 seasons since we got a new weapon added to the game, and I can't be happier, because today I get to channel my inner Monster Hunter Tri Gunlance play as we'll be going over the new cannon type weapons. So of course, if you're ready for this weapon guide and you want to see more of them as well as other content like this on the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button as well as hitting the like button to this video. Your support recently has been absolutely amazing. We're only actually about 200 subs now away from 3,000. So keep doing what you're doing, keep supporting the channel, and I will keep pushing out some amazing content for you guys, and just thank you to all the stuff you guys have done over the last few months, and let's get right into the guide. Like all my other videos in the weapon guide series, this of course is going to be an in-depth guide and breakdown of everything the new cannon type weapons have to offer. Whether you're just starting out with this weapon or you want a few tips and tricks, this is going to be the guide for you. I'll cover everything from the gum kits right down to the combos. Not that there's many combos with these weapons to begin with, but like some of my previous guides, there is bound to be some repeat information, so we'll pass over that as quickly as possible. And please, as you're watching this video, bear in mind that this is not the be-all, end-all guide for the cannons, as every weapon is subject to change as patches come out. The cannons themselves are literally what they're described as: cannons. Of course, these cannons have a variety of defensive options to keep opponents off you, as you hold a massive range advantage over them all the while. They offer the users a total of 255 health, matching the normal type yo-yos, as well as an 102 base movement speed. Unlike the gloves and claws that we talked about in the last guide, while the devs consider these the alternative kit to the punch type weapons, they offer a completely different set of abilities and options compared to their predecessors of the class. So let's start by taking a look, of course, at the Pow Wow Cannon. The Pow Wow Cannon is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to the cannon types in Ninjala, offering superior range to every weapon in the game, including long-range yo-yos. These bad boys come packed with options that turn Ninjala into a third-person shooter. Offering a solid kit as well as a new special and ninjutsu, this weapon is sure to blast your opponents into oblivion. Starting off, the Pow Wow Cannon has the Gum Shoot Gum Kunai. Gum Kunai is something everyone who plays Ninjala should already be familiar with, as they've been in the game a very long time already. They are fast-traveling, slightly tracking kunai that fly towards a target at high speed in an attempt to bind your opponent. You can fire anywhere from 2 to 4 gum kunai, depending on the size of your gum bubble, and they can create immense pressure on your opponents. And when I say immense pressure, I mean immense pressure. You don't want to be guarding gum kunai against the cannon, but I'll talk a little bit about that later. As for the Gum Ninjutsu, we have something brand new for the Pow Wow Cannon. It's a ninjutsu that the Ninjala devs must have clearly been inspired by Dragon Ball from, because this ninjutsu looks straight up like a Final Flash. Super Fling. Yes, that is actually its name. It's not the most creative, but, you know, it's there. It's a Dragon Ball reference. Taking a little time to charge up. Of course, with Super Fling, your character holds a pose similar to a spirit bomb before launching their arms forward, firing an incredibly large beam. Piercing through walls as well as multiple targets, this beam also does a massive 250 damage. If you see someone charging up this ninjutsu, run, because clearly you've just upset Vegeta, and he is not giving any mercy today. Of course, something to note about this ninjutsu is that once you start charging it, you are locked in and have very little control of where you can aim it once it fires. So be careful on where you position yourself, as like any other ninjutsu, it can be cancelled if you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. As for the special and abilities for the cannon type weapons, we have some strange abilities that people may not quite understand right away, but they're an integral part of these weapons. So starting off on the special, the cannons once again have the aptly named Thunder Cannon. Similar to the ninjutsu Super Fling, actually. Thunder Cannon has you charge up in place for a while before unleashing a piercing beam that goes through walls, drones, and even players. However, unlike Super Fling, Thunder Cannon cannot be moved once it starts firing, so aim this carefully. If you don't like where you are while you're positioned while you're starting to charge Thunder Cannon, you can always jump, guard, or dash out too to cancel its charging animation. In regards to this, when you are charging a Thunder Cannon, you don't always have to fire the Thunder Cannon at its full charge. You can actually shoot it early if an opponent is getting too close, but by doing so, you will actually do less damage. It's still useful though, considering it staggers your opponent quite often. Now, normally I'd go into talking about the abilities here at this point in the video, but you see, back in Ninjala Season 9, they added a new feature called the Ninja Gum Lab, which actually allows us to enhance our weapons further. And while we didn't get anything super crazy that changed the game in Season 9 during last season, Ninjala Season 10, the Gum Lab added Alter Specials, which are different specials that when unlocked you can switch between anytime, and it affects how the weapon plays as well as it affects how the weapon works. I won't be going over all of them here, but I will be talking about the one that was added for the cannons in this guide, which is known as Cannon Bomber. Cannon Bomber is the alter special for the cannon type weapons. Unlike the complexities of using Thunder Cannon, Cannon Bomber has one purpose: big damage. The closer you are to your opponent, the more damage it does. It takes a quick second to fire, but after it fires, you do a flip backwards that can also be dashed, jumped, or guarded out of, allowing you to make your next move. I actually prefer using the Alter Special here because not only does it have range and damage, but that backwards movement is super good utility, and it's even saved me from being E-pwned in a few situations. Now, with both the specials on these weapons covered, we can actually move on to the abilities. The abilities on the cannons are quite unique in a way that no other weapon can really be compared to them. These abilities rely on keeping up your S energy rather than enhancing the weapon itself. For those who don't know, the cannons in Ninjala actually rely on your S energy to deal the damage, making it one of the more high skill weapons in the game to use. Now, while I will be talking about the S energy usage in the attacks and combo section of this video, we actually have to discuss what the abilities do first. For our first ability, we have Rapid Charge. When you're low on S energy, by holding down your special button, we actually get to see how Dragon Ball inspired these weapons are, because your character will enter a key charge stance that will quickly refill your S energy gauge back to max. Note, you don't have to charge back up to max at all, like all the time, as you can use Rapid Charge almost at any time. You can choose to cancel it early, which is important because while using Rapid Charge, you are standing in place while regaining your S energy. Pretty simple ability and very useful for how the cannons function overall. As for the big weapon ability, they went over this when they initially introduced the cannons in the, when they first revealed them through the dev diary. The big weapon ability is known as Energy Reward, and this simply recovers 5 units of S energy, no matter the size of your weapon, every time you defeat an opponent. Very simple abilities, but very important when it comes to playing this weapon. Before we can get into the attacks and combos on these weapons though, we do have to talk about the other cannon kit, which comes with a brand new gum shot, the Oedo Cannon. The Oedo Cannon, as you know, shares the same special abilities as the other cannon type that we just went over, the Pow Wow Cannon. So with that already being covered, we can move right into the new gum shoot, the Gum Needle. Gum Needle, or Gum Dart as some people like to call it, NASA, is a medium speed, manual aimed, arcing gum shot that functions in 2 ways. One way it functions is by latching onto an opponent after a second of time, exploding, which will instantly bind your opponent. Or it can sort of act like a landmine being attached to a drone or even the ground and walls, creating an instant binding no-go zone for anyone who dares approach, similar to the card Utsutsemi Master. However, much like Utsutsemi Master's explosion and the other gum shoots in the game, this can be guarded. If the Gum Needle explosion itself is guarded against, it will not bind your opponent. But again, you'll see that later, that guarding a cannon is a big risk, because if you're too close when you try and guard the needle, you're going to get bound regardless. The ninjutsu, of course, though, on the Oedo Cannon is the very similar Tenchi Muyo. Tenchi Muyo, as you know, is an instant punning ninjutsu with short range that wraps opponents into a giant gum net before you forcibly spin them into the ground, proceeding to absolutely decimate them. You are completely invincible during the usage of Tenchi Muyo if you catch somebody as well as its activation, so be sure to use this to your advantage, except when someone has tornado charged on you. Don't pop Tenchi Muyo, you will still get hit by the tornado. Its hitbox is ridiculously long. So yeah, that was, I would say, a bunch of information to cover, and that's just on the weapon kits themselves. Personally, I'm starting to play the Oedo Cannon more than the Pow Wow Cannon because Gum Needle and combos just works a bit better than the Gum Kunai, but both the cannons are good for applying different kinds of pressures in different scenarios, so ultimately it's up to you which one you choose to go with. With that being said, let's take a look at the weapons in action. I have too much to say about the attacks on these weapons because this weapon is very different from everything else in the game. Not only do you have to hold your controller a bit differently to play these weapons effectively, but these weapons are also more affected by gravity than any other weapon in the game too. So let's start off by talking about the cannon's basic attacks. Unlike other weapons in the game, the cannons themselves do not have basic back or basic wide attacks. Instead, they only have normal attacks, charged normal attacks, and variations on the break attack, much like the gloves and claws. Starting off, very simple, we have our simplest attack by pressing ZR repeatedly. You'll fire off some non-homing energy bullets out of the cannon, but unlike other weapons in the game, you can also move while shooting these energy bullets. Of course, this on its own seems really overpowered, so the devs implemented a little bit of a trade-off. You see, while these energy bullets do as much damage and have similar range to yo-yo normal attacks, they do not, in any capacity, flinch your opponent. I can stand right up here and he can swing at, oh well, if he dies, but I can literally stand right in the face of my opponent and just kind of spam, and if they start swinging, you'll notice that I still get hit and they don't get staggered. Sure, of course, during this, using the normal attacks, this means that your opponent's still taking damage, but they're not going to be stopped, as what's hitting them just seems like silly little pebbles being thrown at them. These shots, however, also have another feature. They completely ignore S-Burst. So if I do something like this and then just shoot normal shots, then have my opponent set on S-Burst, you will find that the normal shots do not trigger S-Burst, which means you have to be very careful when you're playing against these cannons. As you can see, they trigger S-Burst, but I'm still able to freely shoot here and still able to pick up the kill because you're stuck in that S-Burst animation the whole time. So be careful when you are challenging cannons in that regard. Of course, this is either really good or really bad for you, because if your opponent isn't paying attention to your health, you're going to be able to kill them quickly. Because the cannons, again, not being able to flinch, if they're not paying attention to their health, you're just going to be able to do this. Or it could be really bad for you, because if they know you're only shooting normal shots at them, they're going to come at you full force. However, this weapon, like I said, these weapons are also affected by gravity. So something that's really strange about these weapons is that while you're in the air or shooting just normal shots, you are in a constant falling state. So I can jump up in the air twice and still fall the entire time. This also applies if I'm standing to a wall, where if I immediately shoot off a wall, I'm also going to be put into that constant falling state. So where other weapons can stay in the air by attacking with normal attacks at certain intervals, the cannons do not get such luxury. You will be constantly pulled down by the force of gravity using basic and normal attacks, and this applies, as I already said, to shooting off walls. To stay in the air, you need something stronger. Good thing the cannons also come with 2 different normal charge attacks. To pull these off, all you need to do is hold ZR to start charging up your cannon. There are 2 stages of this charge. The green stage of this charge, you'll notice, is when green lines start to appear around me, and fires a much larger projectile as I shoot here. This projectile has an increased hitbox, it does increase damage, and also increases its homing ability very slightly. However, every time you use a green charge, you also consume a single unit of S energy. So be careful when you're shooting the cannons, as you will constantly be losing S energy doing this. Now you can see why the abilities on this weapon include a key charge mechanic, as this weapon's gimmick is consuming S energy to do big chunks of damage while staying on the move. However, there is one more charge stage of the normal attacks. Similar to the green stage charge attacks, the stage red charge attacks also start by holding ZR. You'll know you're at full charge when you start seeing red charge lines get added into your charge with an even more increased frequency in them than the green stage. This is the strongest possible shot you have, and like the green stage, this once again increases the size of the projectile, homing ability, range, and this final stage adds the ability to pierce through multiple targets at the cost of 2 units of S energy per red charge states. Both the green and red charge states of the cannons can indeed cause your opponent to flinch as well and force them to burst, but because they're all considered projectiles, regardless of the charge level, guess what? It doesn't care if you burst. All shots from the normal attacks will ignore other weapons S-Burst on cannons, which is very, very scary to deal with. So that covers the basic attacks of the cannons, so now we're going to talk about the break attacks. Like the gloves and claws, the cannons have 3 break attacks. The normal break is exactly what it normally is, a break attack that's meant to stop guards and bursts from your opponents. While the cannon's normal break is a little slow, it has a very respectable range with a little bit of homing, making it very scary to be guarding when kunai are flying into you or a gum needle is on you, as you can kind of do very similar things with gum needle when it's on you. Like this, gum needle, break attack, and they're stuck. Very nice. Back break on the cannons is only a break attack in name alone. Back break is actually an attack from these weapons that can actually trigger S-Burst. By pushing left and right on the right stick and pressing the default break attack button, which is usually mapped to R, you'll fire a beam that comes straight out of the cannon. You can combo these beams into each other up to 3 times, actually up to 4 at point blank range, but remember, every second beam, your opponent will get pushed back into the air and potentially launch them. The back break on the cannons is also the attack that you're going to want to be using if you want to stay in the air longer, as when performing it, right, you'll actually fall slower than if you were doing a normal shot, so you can stay elevated quite well. This break also has decent tracking on it as well, so don't feel afraid if you're being approached by a weapon that is much faster, has much better range, to kind of throw out a back break attack to kind of throw them off guard. You'll find it actually is very, very effective. And finally, we have wide break. This one's actually kind of special. Did you catch that? Yeah. Nothing happened. But this isn't a break attack in the traditional sense. It's a counter. And a really good one. You see, if any attack hits you during this animation, you'll block it. You take no damage, you take no gun damage, and you won't get affected by special abilities such as Beyond the Gum or Golden March. Not to mention that on block, you get a very, very satisfying sound. And how satisfying is it? Well, quite satisfying, if you ask me. Okay, so now you might be thinking, okay, this counter's one hit. Can you counter multi-hits? The answer, believe it or not, is yes. Echoing Scream on the Sound Hammer, as an example, hits 4 times, as we all know in the game. So, let's take a look at this. Let's have little Cape here, use Echoing Scream, and I'm gonna block it. So yeah, you absolutely can guard multi-hits, and every time you guard a blow with these weapons, the guard lasts as long as the attack does. So if the attack, such as the Drill Alter Special, which by the way is invincible to everything, hits your counter, as long as you don't press a button, you will block every single hit. Power Buster, the hammer move that breaks your weapon, guess what? Blocked. And I'll still have my weapon to counterattack you. The only thing this counter doesn't stop, obviously, should be ninjutsus, but we're not done yet. You see, after successfully stopping a hit, if your opponent is in range by pressing the break attack button again, you actually get a counter hit. So yeah, the wide break counter actually has you thrust your cannon into the ground, blasting your opponent into the air, and it sets up for your own counterattack. I did mean it when I said this weapon is scary at all ranges. And you can't play too aggressively against these weapons either because of this counter. And this brings me to the weapon combos. Surprisingly, there aren't that many, but the ones that you do get are really cool. What's intriguing about the cannon combos is that most of them end up in Eppones, very rarely in a direct 1v1 engagement unless you're running the proper Shinobi card. And most of the time you'll end up with just a straight KO on an opponent unless you're running, like I said, a very specific Shinobi card, which I'll be talking about in the next section of the video. Part of the reason why this may be is because the counter blow is so effective at setting you up in proximity, whereas both gum shots on opponents combined with charge shots can really mess people up quickly and even steal kills. So that's what these combos are really going to focus on. I will have combos in this section for both weapons, which I will mark with PW and OC for Pow Wow Cannon and Oedo Cannon. In like my previous videos, some may work on one weapon, others might only work on the other weapon. Before we get into any of those combos though, there's one last thing I have to mention, as it's really important for the combo routes on the cannons. I stated here that when using charge normals, you have to charge and hold ZR to charge up your shots. But you know what else is normally on your ZR button? Your gum shot. As you can see in my bottom right here, after I press ZL, I can't shoot my gum shot because I'm currently holding the ZR button on my controller. Fortunately, the devs knew about this and allowed us to fire gum shots with the break attack button as well. So by blowing up a bubble with ZL and then pressing the default R, you can still shoot your gum shot. So remember that if you're ever charging a shot and need to hold it for the combo, remember that your gum shot now, after a jump cancel, is going to be linked to your break attack button, which is very important to note. And kind of you have to force your hand to play on your controller a little bit differently. You kind of have to grip the controller more so with your right hand if you're right-handed, or more so with your left hand. I always have my middle finger on ZR, and I always have my trigger finger and my index finger on the basic bumper. You gotta get a little bit of practice, but once you practice this, you'll be golden. Anyways, on to the combos. So we're going to start basically like we do with all my combos, and the first combo is just simply known as Just Business. And this combo starts by holding your full charge. You're going to be holding a full charge shot to start this combo, and following this combo, you're going to then blow up a big bubble, press the R button, release ZR, fire 2 normal shots, and if you have Thunder Cannon, you can get close. If you have Thunder Cannon, you can just straight up press Y, have it full charge, and blast your opponent. But for me, I prefer using Cannon Bomber, so for me, it's a little different as I have to hold ZR, press L, release, 2 shots, get a little bit closer to my opponent because of Cannon Bomber doing more damage up close, or Cannon Boom doing more damage up close, and it's really, really nice. It's a basic starting combo, and really all you need to pull this one off is a bind at max charge shot. It works for either special, as I already stated, on either cannon, and it's just super satisfying to land. Remember, if your opponent decides to guard your Needle Explosion or Kunai, you can feel free to throw an extra break attack in there before you release ZR, just to kind of catch your opponent off guard, and you'll still end up getting the bind in the process here. Now let's get on to one of the counter combos for the cannon. This combo on the Oedo Cannon and the Pow Wow Cannon has 2 different setups depending on which one you are doing. For the Oedo Cannon, you're going to start with both of these weapons, even on the Pow Wow Cannon, with a fully charged ZR. Then you are going to pull down in R, you're going to pull down on the stick and press your break attack button, which is R, to start the combo. Once your opponent hits you in said combo, you are going to press R to use your second counterattack hit. For the Oedo Cannon here, you are then going to jump cancel into your gum shot. Follow that up with a left-right back attack, so input left or right on the stick, and press R. Then release ZR for your let go of your fully charged shot, and then press Y. The Pow Wow Cannon route actually just kind of reverses where you release ZR and put your jump cancel in. So with the Pow Wow Cannon, after you block your opponent's counter hit, you are then going to release the ZR button, then jump cancel into your gum shot, then do a left-right break attack, and finish them off with the Y button. This combo, as you can see, takes advantage of the short window you get after the counter to fire off a gum shot into your opponent and keep them in a stun state long enough for the bind to take place. If you want to guarantee this combo 100% of the time on the Pow Wow Cannon, it is very important to remember that you have to switch the release of your fully charged shot to right after the counter before the jump cancel, or else your gum kunai will actually miss and force the combo to drop. The next combo I'm going to show off is something that can only be done with the Oedo Cannon with the Ultra Special Cannon Bomber or Cannon Boom. This combo is simply known as Vendetta, and I absolutely love this combo, and it's just very flashy. And it starts by how all other cannon combos start, by holding down a fully charged ZR. Following that, you are going to be using the Cannon Boom or Cannon Bomber from a medium range. After using that Cannon Bomber, you are then going to dash forward with the L stick before you shoot them with your gum shot. Remember, you have to use the break attack button to unleash the gum shot. Then you're going to unleash your fully charged shot and use one more ZR to finish off your opponent. Now sure, this isn't a true combo, and this combo's damage actually varies on the distance you use Cannon Bomber from, but it's stylish. And what I love about Ninjala is being able to do stylish combos. That's the best part of the game. If you can't do it, what's the point in doing it? Now granted, don't use Black Flash from the one collab, because there's no way in heck you're absolutely going to hit a Black Flash. But honestly, combos like this are just kind of what makes the game fun. You can just go in straight up kick my opponent. They're dead. They're out of play. You can use any other of the 40 damaging Epone emotes that is fast enough to come out. It's really fun. You can catch people off guard with this if you're not ready. If they're not ready, say you just kind of walk up and hit them with Cannon Bomber here. They can move, but if you get that gum shot out fast enough and you do enough damage quick enough and they don't guard the needle if it hits them, you can still get a free Epone off of it, which is really nice. However, this combo, again, it's not a true combo. It's just stylish. I wanted to put it in the video for being in the video's sake. And finally, we have a ninjutsu combo off a counter, which I think is just absolutely silly. And this combo is very specific to the Pow Wow Cannon. So, like all of our cannon combos, this one starts with you holding a level 3 charge. Of course, you're going to need to do a counter in this combo, but, you know, we'll get to that when we get to that. So, again, start this combo with a level 3 charge, then do your your wide break attack by pulling down on the stick and pressing R. After you block your opponent's blow, hit R to activate your counter, immediately release ZR, jump cancel into your gum shot, and then finish them off with your ninjutsu. Now, sure, this combo can be done much simpler with the Oedo Cannon because it has Tenchi Muyo, and all you would have to do is hit the counter hit, then jump cancel into Tenchi Muyo, and your opponents would absolutely be able to do nothing about it. However, I did want to give you Pow Wow Cannon users a kind of a fun combo route to work with where you can really use your ninjutsu into the combo to absolutely BM your opponent. But the only reason I wanted to choose Pow Wow for this one is because this one actually needs to basically utilize everything the cannon has, with the longer stun time on the charge shots, the jump cancel into kunai to keep your opponent into place, obviously the ninjutsu, and the counter. And it's just more fun to pull off with the Pow Wow Cannon overall, which is why I put it on the Pow Wow, but it can easily be done on Oedo Cannon very, very simply. However, that will do it for the combo section of this video, so I hope you found this section very informative, helpful, and well-structured as you learn to use the cannons. In the next section, we're going to talk about the Shinobi card recommendations and weaknesses, so I'll see you guys back in the WNA Resort so we can talk about it. Also, the WNA Resort exists, and I want to go there. Now, of course, as we get into this section, I'd like to note that these recommended Shinobi card preferences might be different compared to yours, but this is just to give everyone a general idea of what you'll want when you want to build a cannon set. Firstly, we're going to talk about a card that is needed on literally every cannon build in the game. As a semi-truck rolls down my street, that card is Giant Killer. Giant Killer is a huge benefit to cannon users because they're just so good at staying mobile and sniping kills from a distance. We may as well enhance this ability by turning any potential knockout on opposing big weapons into an Epone, and that's exactly what the Giant Killer Shinobi card does. An unlimited amount of times. For assist codes on the Giant Killer Shinobi card, honestly, run all three if you can. Gaining health back, increased health recovery, and ninjutsu gain upon defeating an opponent with a big weapon. It really can't go underutilized on these cannons. The cannons are sniping machines, and they are very good at stealing kills away, especially with a full charged shot. Now, for you Pow Wow Cannon users out there, you know I gotta say it. Wall Shooter. Yes! Wall Shooter! A hated card by many because of the insta-binds it can create. But seeing you can hit targets from so far away anyways, why not bind them from a similar distance to finish the job? If you don't have the insta-bind ninjutsu, or insta-bind gum shot, I should say, like gum needle, you may as well run Wall Shooter. All three assist codes on one Wall Shooter are a benefit to you Pow Wow Cannon users, and I'm sure you'll definitely find some use in them. Whether it's faster gum shot cooldown on walls, or even ninjutsu gauge when using gum shoots as well from the walls, you've got a really, solid set of abilities you can choose from. Thirdly, I recommend Last Spurt. Last Spurt gives you unlimited S energy up to 80 seconds before the battle ends. This weapon uses S energy like crazy. Giving it unlimited S energy for dashes and gum boosts makes up for the lack of resources on this weapon that you might have in the early game. This gives you more opportunity to shoot constantly, as the only things that will take away your S energy are bursting, as well, of course, as using your charged shots. And that is absolutely massive when you have a limited dash, boost, and movement, especially with how mobile these cannons can be. Feel free to pick and choose which assist codes you want on Last Spurt, but I definitely recommend the first one, as you can get Last Spurt activated up to 2 seconds per level on that first assist code. So you can have it up to 80 seconds early, which is absolutely important. And finally, my last recommendation is Ninja Sense Pro. What? Ninja Sense Pro? Who uses that? Yeah, I know, but think about it. The radar in Ninjala currently only lets you know if someone is behind you when they are pretty much right on top of you. As a long-range weapon, that's not a very good idea. Let's not forget you also have a counter, so being able to predict the distance your opponents are if they are behind you to time your counter properly is probably very, very helpful. Trying to get not to go too crazy with the first assist code though. Too many levels on the first assist code of Ninja Sense Pro and your perception of distance behind you will fly right out the window and it will detect you from detect enemies, I should say, from very, very far away. But that'll really about do it for my Shinobi card recommendations, so let's talk about this weapon's weakness. The biggest weakness of this cannon, the cannon weapons, is that they can feel a bit spammy. Spammy to the point where you can't control certain moves or moves that are so slow that the end lag is hard to deal with. I'm gonna be honest, this is what makes that weapon so much more enjoyable for me. Everything you do with this weapon, whether it's timing how many small shots you shoot to when you dash or jump cancel, all of it with the cannon weapons has to be deliberate. This gives this weapon a rather steep learning curve for newer players, so I definitely would not recommend this weapon in the slightest for newcomers to Ninjala. Yes, sure, you can snipe kills from across the map, but securing it, knowing how much damage your opponent is doing to another to secure that stealing kill is just as important, I should say, as learning when to disengage a proximity fight when things get too hectic. That's definitely one of the weapon's strongest points, but it's also a weakness. Another weakness of this weapon is itself. Sure, you can block everything cannons throw out one another in a 1v1, but put 3 other weapons in the room with you, and you'll have to worry about them while being sniped by another cannon at massive range at the exact same time. Have fun. The little chip shots the cannons dole out to players over time, it really adds up quickly, as I mentioned earlier, and as a cannon, you don't have a lot of health to begin with at 255, so you have to be careful, especially when dealing with another cannon. Let's also not forget that the only attack that triggers S-Burst Clash from an opposing cannon is a back break, which is very short range. While fighting another cannon, it's always going to be a ranged battle, so be aware when you take those cannon 1v1s. But that'll just about do it for me. We covered actually a bunch of information today on the new cannon type weapons, so I hope I taught everyone here something new. It's been a long while since I've made one of these weapon guides. I'm definitely a little bit rusty, and I hope future editing me as I read this script will be happy with the results. As always, I hope you found this video informative and helpful. If you did enjoy what you just watched, of course, do me a favor and hit that like button, as well as hitting that subscribe button for more amazing content like this and more awesome content coming your way, too. Let me know what your favorite part of the video was down below, and let me know if there's any tips or tricks with the cannons that you guys know about that I might have not covered in this guide. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, until then, this is CIJ Man 777 signing off. Stay safe, everybody.